Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso at thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Reach out to me directly. It's the purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. And today we are discussing the Omega Seamaster Planet Ocean GMT in stainless steel. 43.5 millimeters in stainless steel. This is the post-2016 world of the Planet Oceans, where they have ceramic dials and they are master chronometers. The timepiece you see right here is thick at 17.2 millimeters, but it is an aggressive, complicated sports watch. 49.1 millimeters lug-to-lug means it's actually not that broad across the wrist, with a 21 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, and you can see what I mean about the watch not being terribly broad across the wrist. It's really nowhere near the edges of my wrist, and although it is very thick and will not fit underneath most sleeves, I can still see this fitting on a wrist as small as about 14.5 centimeters circumference. So this is a good fit for most wrist sizes. It's a lot easier to wear than the 45.5 millimeter Planet Ocean. Taking a look at the bracelet, you can see why it's fairly easy to wear on a small wrist. It doesn't have solid end links. They're pivoted, which means the bracelet can pull straight down. It's a handsome, all satin finished 3-link design with staggered alignment and staggered link size. And then you can see that the removable links are fixed by screws. And you've got quite a few of them, so you can fine tune by taking them out or adding them on both sides of the clasp. The clasp itself is a solid bit, machined from the solid with a single swing arm, twin trigger release, a nice little contrasting polished bevel on the edge, and then internally you get the best of both worlds. You get a conventional fold-out dive extension, but then you actually get 9.6 millimeters of incremental adjustment. So there's a sizing slider with a push button so you can fine-tune. So it's a really full-featured and solid clasp that does justice to Omega's reputation for hardcore diving equipment. Sometimes they might be a little bit too hardcore for their own good, which is why you get a helium escape valve and 600-meter water resistance. Now, this helium escape valve, you open it up, and if you're engaging in exotic mixture saturation diving, and helium builds up inside the watch, when you're ascending, you open up this little valve and it will open internally when the pressure internally exceeds external by 2 to 3 bar to release helium from the watch without blowing out the seals or blowing out the crystal. And there are crystals on both sides because in spite of the extreme depth rating, the watch does have a display case back. The bezel here is ceramic, or the insert I should say is ceramic, just like the dial. You can see zirconium oxide just below the cannon pinion, the junction of the hands. And that is what the dial is made of. The dial is bidirectional rotating because it is a GMT bezel, like a Rolex GMT. So strictly speaking, though this is a dive-style watch, it's not an ISO 6425. You can quickly use this 24-hour scale along with the 24-hour second time zone to judge a third time instantaneously, as long as you set the 24-hour hand to Greenwich Mean Time. Or if you're not using it in a life-saving capacity, because it can drive in both directions, you can just line up the bezel pearl and approximate 15, 30, and 45 minutes. It's quite intuitive to use if you want to use it also as a timing bezel. The timepiece does feature a number of high-end details like applique numerals, indices, and Omega logo. The movement features a true dual time capability. You can tell that third time using the bezel, but you're able to move the local hour hand independently of the others, and you can see the watch is still keeping time, and I can drive the date in either direction depending on which direction I'm traveling. When I pull the crown out all the way, I activate hacking or stop seconds. Now you can see the seconds hand is not moving, and I can set everything in sync, and this allows me to set the watch across 2 time zones to the second with precision. There's a little bit of a shouldering to protect the crown. The crown is a screw down, needless to say. We're going to pop open this clasp, pull open the extension, and slide out the slider and take a look at the case back. Now you can see this is caliber 8906. It's based on the 8900 Maytaz chronometer. Maytaz is the master chronometer certification, so it's everything that the COSC is, but it goes beyond, as it's a test of the fully cased movement. The movement's also not just timed in 5 positions, it's timed in 6. And the fully cased up test includes winding efficiency, power reserve, water resistance, anti-magnetism, plus all the chronometer timing standards. It's an Institute of Swiss Federal Metrology system that was co-developed with Omega, so it is far beyond the scope of the ISO. that governs the COSC, as it does include the entire watch. Speaking of resistances, this has an anti-magnetic silicon hairspring, Si14 Omega calls it, so the watch is effectively amagnetic to 15,000 Gauss or more. It's shock tolerant too, with a full balance bridge and a free sprung index. It winds in both directions, and it has a 60-hour power reserve endowed by twin mainspring barrels. The twin barrels also ensuring even torque release, so that, unlike a single barrel movement, you don't have a big drop off in balance amplitude after 24 hours. All this pivots on 38 joules, and it uses a coaxial escapement, the latest tri-level version, which you can just see on its bridge underneath the balance bridge sawing away. It's a direct and indirect impulse system designed by George Daniels in the 70s, industrialized by Omega in 1999, that reduces parasitic friction, which increases power reserve, increases short-term timing accuracy, and long-term timing stability. It's also one of the reasons Omega now offers 5-year warranties on these watches. Reach out to Tim Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. And we're back with the Planet Ocean GMT. You can see the bezel pearl and the minute hand are differential for easy distinction.